Hello Year 2s. This is a story that we read in the Zoom meeting this afternoon, but just in case you didn't make it to the meeting, or if you had some issues with sound, this is the story. The Boy Who Unplugged the Sea. Building sandcastles was one of Marcel's favourite pastimes. He would spend hours on the beach with his dog Whippy, creating amazing sculptures out of sand, shells and pebbles. And there's one of his amazing creations. I'm sure you've all made sandcastles like that in the past when you've been to the beach as well. But annoyingly, when the tide came in, Marcel's lovely creations were always washed away. He tried building his sandcastles further away from the sea, but the sand was just too dry and wouldn't stick together. He dug really deep moats around them, but they eventually filled up with seawater and his creations crumbled. No matter how big and strong Marcel built his sandcastles, the sea was always bigger and stronger. Before bedtime, as Marcel was washing the sand out from his toes, he had an amazing idea. "That's it!" he exclaimed. The sea was just like a gigantic bath. He would simply unplug it. And that's why he's watching the water go down, inspired him to think of a way to unplug the sea. Without delay, Marcel got straight to work. "Whippy, we're going to need something special to get to the bottom of the sea." With nuts and bolts and springs and screws, Whippy and Marcel worked late into the night. And finally, with the last bit of his drill, the diving machine was ready. And there's a diving machine. Looks pretty cool if you ask me. Full of excitement, Marcel raced to the beach to launch it. Luckily, it was high tide. There was a splash and a zoom of his propeller. He disappeared below the surface. Marcel travelled deeper and deeper underwater, past all kinds of weird and wonderful sea creatures, until he eventually spotted the plug. The old chain was extremely heavy, and it took all of Marcel's strength to lift it to the surface. Back in the boat, Marcel attached the chain to its crane. "Hoist her up, Whippy." Suddenly there was a loud gurgling noise, and as the plug came up, the sea started to disappear down a huge whirlpool. The little boat swirled around as the ocean drained away, until they eventually found themselves washed upon the rocks. All around Marcel, the creatures of the sea were trapped in the sand and in the shallow rock pools with no means of escape. Look very sad, little creatures, don't they? Then Marcel realised that without the sea, the frozen ice caps would begin to melt, and the polar bears and penguins would have nowhere to live. "That's it!" shouted Marcel as he jumped to his feet. "If there was a plug hole, surely there must also be a tap." But where could it be? And would they be able to find it in time to save all the creatures that need the sea? For hours, Marcel and Whippy trudged along through the soggy sand, searching for the mysterious sea tap. Where would the tap to the sea be, I wonder? Just as they were about to give up, Whippy started barking. "That's it, boy, but how do we reach it?" So if you look very closely at the very top, there's the tap that they've been looking for. Then Whippy gave Marcel an idea. With miles and miles of sand all around, they started to build. I wonder what Marcel and Whippy are trying to build. The biggest, most fantastic sandcastle ever. And then they were able to walk right up to the tap. At the top, with a huge huff and a puff and a push and a pull, the tap finally turned on. The force of a waterfall the sea blasted out, sending Marcel and Whippy tumbling down to the rising water below. That's a huge tap there. Look at all the water that's coming out. Washed onto the beach by huge waves, Marcel and Whippy were wet and exhausted, but very relieved. Whippy looks particularly tired in that picture. Quickly the oceans filled back up. Dolphins were delighted, crabs were content, and the octopus was overjoyed. There's all the different animals who are much happier. The sea froze to make ice, and the polar bears and penguins returned to their homes. Finally, with everything back to normal, Marcel didn't mind that his sandcastles got washed away, because he can build a bigger and better one every day. That's quite an impressive sandcastle. And that's the end of the story. Hope you enjoyed it, Year 2s. Hope to see you again soon. Bye.